the big news is, so Chaim Bloom will succeed John Mozeliak as president of baseball operations starting in 2026 and will sign a 5-year contract. So that's 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. So 5-year contract for Chaim Bloom. And I think we also knew going in that John Mozeliak would not be stepping down from his role for 2025 as president of baseball operations. We got some people jumping in. By the way, let me know if you can hear me well. I know you can see me well. I got the glasses on. So this press conference, 4 people up there, Ali Marmol not on the dais, as we like to say. So it's Bill DeWitt III, Cardinals team president, Bill DeWitt Jr., Cardinals chairman and CEO, owner, John Mozeliak, of course, Cardinals president of baseball operations, and Chaim Bloom, who I don't know exactly what his title is going to be for 2025, but basically the big news was he will oversee, they called it a reset, an overhaul, whatever you want to call it, of the Cardinals player development for 2025. And then if you're just joining us, Chaim Bloom taking over as president of baseball operations, succeeding John Mozeliak in 2026 on a 5-year contract. Some other news, Michael Gersh will now be the VP of Special Projects. So remember before that, he was the general manager. Now, I don't think I missed this, but I don't think they named who would be the other general manager. I'm not sure that even matters right now. And the press conference just ended. So basically, Mo staying, part of the reason Mo is staying on, and look, clearly he also wants to stay on, but that allows Chaim Bloom. This is the Cardinals, by the way. This is the Cardinals saying this. So I'll give my opinion on it in a bit. But Mo staying on so that Chaim can really oversee that reset and overhaul in 2025 and really focus on that. And then he'll be the chief decision maker in 2026. So a couple other highlights here before I give my opinion. John Mozeliak did say he'd anticipate payroll going down for 2025 as they reallocate a lot of these resources from the major league payroll to investing in the overhaul of the minor league system. Bill DeWitt, the third team president, also, just because we're having fun, beautiful head of hair now. Bill DeWitt III, right? Beautiful head of hair. I did notice that. BW3 also said that the local media landscape is a new challenge for them. So everybody knows what's going on with Bally's, and moving forward with the Cardinals, will they control all of that television distribution themselves? We'll see about that. So there's another thing in terms of you're used to getting the checks coming in from Bally's for the last several years. And I do think long-term it's better for the Cardinals if they're going to own their own deal in terms of streaming and television. But for a couple of years, you got to think that's a pretty heavy investment monetarily. BW3 also mentioned he's hoping, as I am as well, that sports gambling passes, and that could be another positive revenue stream for all the sports franchises in the state, including your St. Louis Cardinals. Bill DeWitt Jr., the owner, was asked about basically, this was Derek Gould saying, what kind of message was sent by the Cardinals fans not showing up 3 million? And it was what? It was 2.85 million, but there were a lot of no-shows in there too. Whatever the sold tickets was, I mean, there were games where only half the people actually showed up. And so Bill DeWitt Jr. said if he was a fan, he'd actually be excited about the future, and sometimes change is good. Little spin cycle there, but I get it. And then Mo was talking about the fact that they need an overhaul in their minor league development. And these aren't direct quotes, but I just made some notes here. And he said something along the lines of, it's not that they weren't doing it right from a development standpoint, but just that things change. Well, in my opinion, if things change, you have to change with them, or you have to be ahead of the curve. So clearly the Cardinals weren't doing things right if you have to have a major overhaul of the entire minor league system here coming up for 2025, and you're admitting that you're going to decrease your major league payroll, which I'm sure fans don't like hearing at all. But I want to hear from you guys too, because I do think they're finally taking the steps to change this. I'm sure the headline for fans is, well, why is John Mozeliak staying around? And I think that's very fair. Why are you allowing the guy who basically is responsible for what happened to the franchise the last several years? Why are you letting him stay on to oversee, even for a year, this big change? And look, if they're decreasing payroll at the major league level, don't you think we've already heard the Katie Wu report that the Cardinals are not expected to re-sign Paul Goldschmidt? Don't you think there's going to be some trades coming? I don't know who, but if you're talking about decreasing payroll, if you're talking about starting to really build and develop around your young core, look, you got option guys like Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, probably not coming back. You got to think Eric Fetty's pretty cheap. Sonny Gray makes a lot of money, but he's pretty dang good. But look at the Nolan Arenados of the world, $35 million. And let's be real too. When you make a signal to the fan base and to the clubhouse that you're really not going to try to win all out 2025. And by the way, I don't think the Cardinals will be bad in 2025, but Nolan Arenado is not young. So I thought even before this news, Nolan Arenado would probably float it out there to his agent that, hey, it's time to maybe move on. And so I wouldn't be shocked at all if Nolan Arenado's traded this offseason. Now, he's also not super productive. He's not bad, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about a $35 million contract. So I would think the Cardinals would have to eat some salary if that's the case. But there's some big name, big money guys who probably don't want to be around for a rebuild. I'm just speculating here, but I would think Arenado, Sonny Gray, we shall see. Wilson Contreras, we shall see. These guys are all in their 30s, mid 30s. Do they want to be around for a rebuild? Which, by the way, I don't think is going to take that long. I'm excited about the Cardinals' young position players. If you look at 2026, you'd think that's the year that the Quinn Matthews, the Tink Hences of the world are really ready to contribute at the big league level. So, all right, I've talked for about 8 minutes here. I want to hear from you guys as well. But I think the very fair criticism is, well, why is Mo allowed to stay on and oversee this? And here's the deal. I've said this a million times. I think I'm very fair. I think John Mozeliak was very good for this organization the first 10 years or so. The last 5 to 7 years clearly has not been as good. There's been a real fall off record-wise the last couple years, and in terms of a real chance of making the playoffs. And look, if you're basically saying here that at the end of John Mozeliak's tenure, his final season essentially, that you need to reset, overhaul, whatever the word is, your entire minor league development situation. Look, John Mozeliak is the president of baseball operations. That right there is a huge indictment of what's been going on in the baseball ops department for the last several years. If in this man's final offseason and then final season 2025, you have to take monies away from the big league payroll and totally, completely overhaul your minor league development, I don't know what else you can say in terms of how things are going, right? And that's where, look, I like Mo. He's been good to me personally. I try to be very fair. When he says it's not that we weren't doing it right from a development standpoint, well, no, you weren't doing it right. I mean, that's pretty clear. You didn't have the resources allocated. You fell off from that drafting and developing machine that the Cardinals were for the first 10 years or so. And look, Jeff Luhnow gets a lot of credit, but also John Mozeliak gets credit. Bill DeWitt Jr. gets credit. I give everybody credit back then when the Cardinals were doing really, really well. And they were churning out major league players just year after year, pitchers especially, starters, relievers. That has not been the case the last couple of years. And then also just in terms of evaluating talent, clearly the Cardinals have lost their fastball, pun intended, in terms of who to keep, who to trade away, when to trade guys. How many, seems like 8 different outfielders have been traded away, and then they're good somewhere else. And the guys the Cardinals often keep, they keep them so long they no longer have any value, and you're essentially trading these guys for a bucket of baseballs, whether it's Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, whatever it is. I also thought it was interesting that Ali Marmol was not there on the dais. This was more of an ownership front office type press conference. I just wonder, I want to hear from you fans. Is this enough? Is this enough substantive change? I know you guys are pissed off, and you're rightfully so pissed off. Is this enough substantive change for you to be okay with the direction of the Cardinals? With Mo coming back, even though it's 1 year, they've announced Chaim Bloom. I think Chaim Bloom being announced as the POBO for 5 years in 2026, I think is fantastic news. Coaching staff changes. Looks like we're not going to have any, which I think you have to basically switch out the offensive coaching staff. Sure seems like Ali Marmol is going to be back. I'm not as mad about that one probably as a lot of you guys are, because look, if you're overhauling the minors in 2025 and you're not necessarily really going for it from a major league standpoint, does it really matter who your manager is, right? I don't think Ali Marmol is great. I don't think he's terrible. But if you're already setting this whole deal in motion for a huge reset really in 2026, the reset is starting now at the minor league level, but the reset is really starting 2026. That is when Chaim Bloom will be the chief decision maker. And so then that also gives him another year to evaluate Ali, to evaluate the coaching staff. Although I just wanted to say, I think you should change out the offensive coaching staff right now. Especially, look, Turner Ward was Paul Goldschmidt's guy, and whatever they were doing offensively, not working at all. I don't think anybody would disagree with that one right there. But so I don't think it's that big of a deal that Ali Marmol is coming back. Now, if in 2026 Chaim Bloom takes over, he might say, look, I want to start with my own guy. And also, look, maybe the Cardinals make some positive steps in 2025. Maybe this young core offensively starts to blossom. Who knows, with a McGreevy, with a Graceffo, whatever happens with a Zach Thompson, Andre Palante. Maybe this team isn't that bad next year. I don't think the team is going to be that bad, but could they then get a bigger name manager if the team looks like they're potentially in the direction to winning in 2026, and you got some guys like Tink Hence and Quinn Matthews ready to contribute? You got to think those guys are going to contribute a little bit next year in 2025. So, look, I've said this a million times. I didn't think John Mozeliak necessarily had to step down, but I think announcing Chaim Bloom was great. I would have basically, to quell fan disappointment, I would have said it kind of like, hey, this is going to be a timeshare, a brain trust between Chaim Bloom and John Mozeliak for 2025. I would have said something like that. I think that makes the fans a little happier. I know you fans want John Mozeliak gone altogether. Most of you, a huge percentage. I put it out there on a Twitter poll, and I know Twitter's not a scientific poll. But look, that's a fair point to make. If you're going to trade a bunch of players, right? Why are you letting John Mozeliak oversee those trades if he's not going to be there in 2026? If Chaim Bloom is taking over, and oh, by the way, you don't trust John Mozeliak anymore to make those big trades. Remember, they already did the big sell-off last year at the trade deadline. So these are all really good points, questions, which I'm guessing you're going to have. So I've run my mouth for 15 minutes. I have about till 3:05. So I will go to your guys' questions now. Here we go. Let's see. My guy Chiefs, 15. At least we know the end is near. Well, we knew that with Mo. I think the most important thing is that they announced Chaim Bloom is taking over for 5 years starting in 2026. And I think that's a big positive. This is one of the smartest guys in baseball. He was a huge part of the Tampa Bay Rays, winning at a high level without a lot of resources. And he basically fell right into your lap, right in the middle of a succession plan. So I don't know how you could be disappointed about that if you're a Cardinals fan. Let's see. So Heartbeat Productions. Man took his notes. That's right, baby. Look at this. Look at my notes. Been looking forward to this. 5 years of Chaim, where the first year he isn't Pobo. No, the way I heard it was Chaim's going to sign a 5-year contract when he's Pobo. That's the way I heard it. So that would be 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm pretty sure. HB Cards, tone deaf. Yeah, I get it. So a lot of you guys think that by keeping Mozeliak, by letting him run the show for one more year, it's tone deaf to allow him to oversee this this overhaul for the last year. I get it. I totally get it. I put this on Twitter earlier. HB Cards, good luck selling tickets. Yeah, BW3 did say they're going to try to spruce things up for the ballpark entertainment aspect of being there. I don't know. You guys tell me. What do you think? I mean, I understand how you maybe aren't super happy with 2025. Are you not going to come to the ballpark? Are you more likely not to come to the ballpark after today's news, right? And remember, going in, it was essentially reported that John Mozeliak was not going to lose his job. So you tell me. I think at least they're starting this big overhaul. They're getting the ball rolling. I think John Mozeliak should have either stepped down or taken a different role, or also maybe just couched this situation differently, or discussed it differently in terms of, hey, this is going to be a timeshare between myself and Chaim for the next year. I understand why fans are not happy with John Mozeliak being around for 2025. I totally get it. Let's see. Dalton Ferris, terrible. For the short bus kids, they were saying full scale rebuild. Okay. We don't have to say short bus. Come on now. Brett, I'm preparing myself emotionally to not getting to see Arenado, Gray, Contreras, or even Helsley in a Cardinals jersey again. Yeah, I think makes a ton of sense to move Ryan Helsley. The reliever market, super volatile. Guys can be great. Guys get injured. He's going to make a ton of money next year in arbitration. You're already saying you're going to decrease payroll. Why do you need a big name closer if you're not going to be all in to win, especially if you can get a huge haul for Ryan Helsley? I would say it makes total sense to trade Ryan Helsley. I'm still in the camp that it didn't make sense for the Cardinals to sell off at this year's trade deadline. You were too close. You had a shot. You have to go for it. I understand if you disagree with me. I understand you could have got a huge haul for Ryan Helsley a couple months ago, but I think after last year, it still made sense. And look, it was weird because the Cardinals played like crap in August. They also had a really tough schedule. Then they go off in September. They went off in September, beat a bunch of good teams. I was there at the end, winning series against the Guardians. So it wasn't like this team didn't have a chance to grab a wild card spot. They just, look, you had that couple good games. There were some vibes. Eric Fetty, Tommy Pham, and then you played a bunch of good teams in August, couldn't beat them. But then you go on a nice run in September, and you finish the year pretty strong at 83 wins. I'm not saying that's okay, but I get why the Cardinals tried to go for a wild card spot at the trade deadline, and I still think that was the right move. Let's see. Prezzo Carter, much ado about nothing. Smoke screens all over. Let's see. Tyler Jerabek. Unpopular opinion, but I think letting Bloom focus on resetting the development program while Mo focuses on building the major league roster is the correct move. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Let Chaim for one full year totally focus on the complete overhaul of the minor leagues. But again, if you're not loving John Mozeliak's decision making for the last 5 years or so, what if they do trade Gray? What if they trade Helsley? What if they trade Arenado, Contreras, or a couple of those guys? Probably not all, but a couple of those guys. Do you want Mo making those trades? I got to think Chaim Bloom's going to have a big impact in that room as well. But I get it. I said a million times, I thought John Mozeliak should have stepped down. I also don't hate this strategy, though. I think it was a big move. It was a big move announcing Chaim Bloom. For me, I'm pretty rational. I'm pretty reasonable. I'm okay with it, even though I'll say for the 5,000th time, I thought Mo should step down or take a different role. Here we go. Tyler Jerabek again. The payroll announcement is a bit alarming. Probably puts everyone from Gray, Arenado, and Contreras to Michaelis and Matz on the block. Yeah, I mean, Michaelis and Matz, though, I mean, you have to eat a lot of salary to move those guys. But look, if you want to give opportunities, who do you want to see in the rotation next year? Let's say you move all the big contracts. So let's say you keep Fetty around. Fetty's making 7.5, although maybe Fetty is a better guy to move because the contract is so manageable. You can get more prospects in return, right? So next year, you want to see Palante, obviously. You want to see McGreevy get a look. I think it's too early for Tink Henson, Quinn Matthews, but we shall see. Then some of these other guys that we always hear about, Graceffo, Zach Thompson, Libator. Do you want to see Libator get a shot in the rotation? Has that ship sailed? I guess for next year, nothing is sailed for next year. If you're essentially saying you're not really trying to win, then I'm okay. If you move some of those big names, I'm okay with giving Libator one last shot at the rotation. And then that's it. And if he doesn't blossom as a starter, then just permanently move him to the bullpen. If 2025 doesn't really, really matter. Let's see. Here we go. Jeffrey Sawzek. I'm saying under 2.5 million tickets sold next year. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. MT2330, LOL. They literally never can admit any mistakes, like ever. It's crazy. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, come on, Mo. Mo, when you say it's not that we weren't doing it right from a development standpoint, well, that's exactly what it was. And you were doing it right back in the day. So what? You can't have it both ways. You were not doing it right from a player development standpoint. That's why you have to totally overhaul and reset your entire operations here. Come on now. I agree. There's one thing to be your promo marketing department, but also at this point, I think we can shoot straight with the Cardinals fans, especially after the last couple of years. This week in Missouri politics, that's my guy Scott Fawn. The day they extended Marlow last spring, the 24 season was over. It was a complete embrace of failure. Today, the 25 season is over. Again, a complete embrace of failure. Yeah, I said the whole time, I didn't say last year necessarily you had to fire Ollie. I was not for the extension. And if they move on from Ollie, here's another thing. Would Skip Schumacher want this job right now when you're starting a full-on minor league rebuild? We know Skip Schumacher, who loves St. Louis, but a lot of good teams are going to want that guy. He's going to be the hottest free agent manager out there. Even though he loves St. Louis, which we know, but he's also a California dude, right? And probably the biggest teams with the biggest payrolls are going to want this guy. We'll see what happens with the playoffs. That's the thing. If you could get Skip, would you move Ollie? Does Skip want to come here for a rebuild? I don't know. We shall see, folks. Here we go. Mike at Tyler. Who would possibly take Matz or Michaelis? They're still arms. I mean, look, people need pitching, but they're not going to take that salary. You're going to have to eat a ton of the salary. What's Michaelis making? 18.5. Matz's AAV is 11. I don't know exactly what it is for next year, but it's something. It's something in that realm. Let's see. Mike, add Nathan Rector in that case. It won't help decrease payroll much. I think that'll be fascinating of who they move. Again, maybe Sonny Gray wants to stick around for this rebuild. I don't know. Michaelis, Matz, those guys, they're not good enough to really kind of control their destiny right now. And it would be nice to open up some spots for some younger pitchers. Wilson Contreras, I don't have a good vibe on him. And you got no trade clauses for some of these guys. I gotta think, and I said this even before, I gotta think Nolan Arenado wants out. I think Nolan Arenado right now is kicking himself that he didn't opt out a couple years ago, or at least get more money from the Cardinals. I can't believe he didn't opt out. And I'm sorry. That dude he worked his way out of Colorado when they were losing. You essentially have all of ownership and the front office saying right now, we're not really trying to win in 2025. Again, they won't tank. But Nolan Arenado is how old is he? Is he 33, 34, whatever he is? There's no way in hell Nolan Arenado wants to stick around. I'm just saying that right now. There's no way in hell. I don't care what he says publicly. There's no way in hell. He has maybe, 2-3 years left. How old is Nolan Arenado? I should know this. Is he like 33? I know he's paid for a few more years here. But I'm sorry. There's no way Nolan Arenado wants to stick around for what's going on with the Cardinals. But again, so he's 33. He'll be 34 next April. His contract, is he here for 4 more years? Let me check it here. Let me check it, peoples. Trying to get you information, right? Trying to get you some information. Up to the minute. Salaries. Nolan Arenado. Okay, so 3 more years. So Arenado made $35 million this year. He'll make, okay, so look, it's not as big of money as you thought. $32 million for 2025, $27 million for 2026, $15 million for 2027. So if I add that up, that's 59, 69, that's $74 million owed Nolan Arenado for the next 3 seasons. That's less than $25 million AAV, and also the Rockies are paying $5 million of that in 25 and 26. So look, I was thinking he's making $35 million a year, which he was up until this year. So look, he's not a $35 million player anymore, but that's a little more manageable in terms of moving that contract. So I would think Nolan Arenado's gone. If I had to bet money, and I like to bet, Nolan Arenado is not a St. Louis Cardinal for 2025. There ain't no way he wants to stick around. Here we go. Rob Sheehan, play the young guys. Gone is Contreras, Goldie, Sonny, and Nolan. Dump Miles. His stuff doesn't play. His ERA is so bad. Tyler again, Michaelis and Matz aren't going to moves that get us anything to help us win immediately or probably even down the road. Literally just a salary dump to get dead weight off the roster. Yeah, and also give younger guys an opportunity. I know he didn't get a huge opportunity, but don't you want to at least see McGreevy get an opportunity to start, see what you have? Whatever the hell happens with Graceffo, I'll repeat myself. I'm okay with Liberatore getting one last shot if next year doesn't really matter. So, Space Magic Storm, disappointed in this presser. Like, glad they're working on the farm system, but disappointing nonetheless. My guy Scott, is it just me, or did DeWitt seem like a guy in another universe? It was just bizarre to see him rambling on about how great things are when this team and organization is awful. Yeah, I hear you. For forgetting or not admitting any type of mistakes. And yeah, it did seem like they were really kind of stuck in the past. Like, hey, this isn't that big of a deal. We weren't doing anything wrong. And they were even asked about that. I can't remember who asked them about when did you start to see that you had fallen behind, years ago. And I think it was Bill DeWitt Jr. said, well, I wouldn't say it was many years ago. It was more recent. But look, just go back to some of the trades, Ozuna trade, Rosarena trade, and also just all the outfielders not developing all these guys, these top picks in terms of outfielders. And look, give them credit for Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson and Lars Nootbaar and Brendan Donovan. There's a lot of good ones, but again, Rosarena, and I know Adolis Garcia, but Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson, having to trade those guys with no value when years ago you could have got a haul for those guys, not being able to figure out who's good, who isn't. That's what Mo used to do really well early on. Early on, he made no bad trades. Remember even flipping Brett Wallace essentially for Matt Holliday. And that was a great move. Brett Wallace didn't turn into much, all due respect. But look at what would have happened now. Brett Wallace would have been another name thrown in the bucket. If Brett Wallace was a pick 3 years ago, he would have been like the 6th guy that they didn't trade when they should have, that stayed forever, and then you had to trade him for a bucket of balls. That would have happened if Brett Wallace was a pick 5 years ago. That's what never happened to Mozeliak and the Cardinals, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was. Teresa Campbell, I've never seen the Cards in a slump like this. My guy Gino, Mo's legacy will be the fact he trashed maybe the best player development minor league system under George Kissel and brought the team to a point where the major and minor leagues are garbage. Yeah. Look, again, if you need a major overhaul of your entire minor league organization in your final year, in your final offseason as president of baseball operations, that is a huge indictment. There is no other way around that. There's really no other way to say that. So here we go. Prezzo Carter. Already floating the trade of Walker. What? Just a bunch of idiotic behavior in this organization. Who's floating that? There ain't no way they're trading Jordan Walker. Then again, what if Jordan Walker's another one of the outfielders that stays too long and never actually turns out? I hope to God that's not the case. I'm a big Jordan Walker fan. Also, first base. Goldie's not coming back. Burleson first. Walker, is he an outfielder? Is he a first baseman? Long term? Big boy. Big dude. 6'6", 6'7". Going to be about 265, 270. I don't know. Mike, I don't generally have a big problem with Bill Jr., but I disagree with most of what he said today. Then again, he's the billionaire, not me. Hey, just because he's a billionaire doesn't mean that he's always right. And again, like, there was a lot of marketing up there. Let's be real about that. There was a lot of marketing. There was a lot of promotions. There was a lot of PR is the word I'm looking for. There was a lot of public relations going on. I agree with the earlier commenter who said this team just refuses to admit mistakes. Even with this whole press conference and Chaim Bloom and everything is a huge admission of the mistakes you made for the past 5-7 years that really came out at the big league level the last couple years. But yes, and they weren't even really admitting that, right? They were tap dancing around that. And it's not that we didn't do things right, and it's only been a couple years. No, it's been a downward trend for several years. But the Cardinals were also so good years ago. I'm talking that 11 to 15 run, even when a lot of these other guys left, however much you want to allocate what Luno was responsible for. And he was really good. Let's be real. But the minor league system was so good that they were good for another 5 years, whatever it was, because so many guys were in place. And you had Yachty staying here for 20 years. You had Adam Wainwright staying here for 20 years. You had Matt Carpenter for a long time. You had a lot of guys that stuck around for a long, long time. Let's see. Tyler Jerbeck, Gersh is VP of halfway out the door. Yeah, that sounded like a demotion. Gersh, VP of special projects. So we'll see if they name a general manager this year. I don't know if it really matters. Back in the day, the general manager was the chief decision maker. Now it's the president of baseball operations. I didn't hear anything about Randy Flores, so we'll see what happens there. Josh Humphreys, it was all Jeff Luno, and I'd rather have Goldie back than Mo and Ollie. Yeah, look, Jeff Luno was huge. I give Mo a lot of credit. You got to give everybody a lot of credit back in the day, but Jeff Luno surely gets a lot of it. But I'm not this person that's now doing revisionist history and saying Mo wasn't good for a long time. And I think Mo was good for a long time. And even if he had good lieutenants underneath him, right? I mean, give credit to him and the Cardinals and the DeWitts and Jocketies for having all those people in place and listening to them also. Brendan Fashi, I don't understand why both Ollie and Mo are sticking around. It's almost like they hate this city and don't listen to 90% of their customers, the fans. Again, I'm not real mad. I'm not mad at all about the Ollie thing, just because I think if you want to move on from the manager, you do it in 2026, right? I mean, who are you going to get? Who are you going to get to sign up for this rebuild? Unless it's Skip. I would move on for Skip. If I'm Skip, I don't want to be a part of this rebuild. If I have big winning franchises, big payrolls, big contenders, teams that are much closer to contention than the Cardinals to win a World Series or run deep. My guy Gino again, Schilt was the last Kissel disciple and tried to save this organization, but Mo clearly can't see the forest for the trees. Is it for the trees or through the trees? I never know that one. And fired him because he wasn't a yes man. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that as well. Look, I think Schilt, you heard some reports of some treatment of staff, but also I think Schilt was always seen as the low-level guy. I've heard other people talk about this. Sometimes they say you never want to stay with the company you were an intern with because people will always look at you as the intern, right? Schilt was always the minor league guy, lucky, happy to be there, never played in the bigs, not a lot of experience. Then he started winning. Then he gets to the major leagues, just happy to be the manager. Then he wins, gets some playoffs, manager of the year, NLCS. He thought he had some juice in the organization. He didn't, because it was Mo's way or the highway. And look, there's more to that story, but how does it look now? It looks like Schilte's in a better spot for sure as the Padres go to the playoffs and the Cardinals do not for the second straight year. I asked this earlier. Is this enough? Not at all. Yeah, I get that. I get that. It's just enough for me. I'm not going to go crazy, but I'll say for the 8,000th time, I think John Mozeliak should have stepped aside. But I don't hate what they're doing. The Chaim Bloom succession plan, I love. If you're going to have to overhaul the minors, let Chaim do it. But also, if you don't trust John Mozeliak to make these big trades and big decisions in the last year, let's let Chaim Bloom and let's let the brain trust all jump in there and have it be a collective. Okay, here we go. Tyler, again, another unpopular opinion, but I don't think Ali was the problem this year. The offense completely underperformed, and I know the record the last 2 years falls on him, but his game management wasn't bad. Yeah, he was not the main issue. That's why I would get rid of the offensive coaching staff over Ali. I would say, look, let's see if some new voices, some new eyes offensively. What were they? Their OPS was like, we looked this up the other day. Was it like 20th or 22nd or 23rd? Something like that, whatever it was. So bottom quartile or bottom third, but runners in scoring position, they were just atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And they started the year so bad. They dug themselves such a hole. That was the big part of this year. The offense sucked so bad in the first month. And it was like the whole team was in a slump and nobody could get out of it, right? Where's the coaching staff to help get these guys out of it? That did not take place. And that's one of the big reasons you were basically trying to claw your way back for the whole season. You had the good month or so, good 2.5 weeks in May. Then you had this nice stretch at the end of the season, September, when it really didn't matter. Let's be real. But the rest of the season, pretty mediocre or bad, as we discussed the early part of the season. How can you not fire Turner Ward from Josh Humphreys? I agree with that one, especially since he was Goldie's guy and Goldie's not coming back. But again, I guess if we're being fair, I don't want to say does it really matter. But if 2026 is the year that Chaim Bloom really takes over, then he'll want to bring in potentially his own manager or keep these guys, bring in a new manager with a new coaching staff. So do you bring in a whole new coaching staff for Ali and then you get rid of those guys if Chaim Bloom wants to make a change? This is baseball. It's the big leagues. It could happen, but I don't know. I would have moved on from the offensive staff. I would have had John Mozeliak step aside and say it's going to be a brain trust between him and Chaim Bloom. Ali, I'm okay with. I get it that you guys aren't. But again, I think the big change maybe comes the big change on the field, management. I'm talking about the field manager, coaching staff. That may likely happen in 2026 or before 2026 if Chaim Bloom is not loving the direction of that staff and Ali, so on and so forth. Here we go. Mike, I'm not even a little surprised that nothing will change to fix 2025. Yeah, I get that. The Cardinals are always slow. This ownership group, Mozeliak, they're very slow to change. And even here, even when it's so obvious that you're making a huge change for 2026, they still essentially are slow playing it this offseason in 2025 by allowing John Mozeliak to stick around. The guy who oversaw the fact that you got into this situation in the first place, where you feel the need to reset the entire minor league organization. And you're letting him stick around for one more year to make top level decisions. That does not make a lot of sense. Brendan Fasci, why do they do the same things that don't work and expect a different result? I have to go because I have to pick my kids up. Thank you for watching. We had like 300 of you concurrently watching. Let me see. I bet you we had could it be over 1,000 or is that too many? What do you think? We had 300 people watching at once. Let's see what we had here. We had 1,420 people, 1,420 views the last 60 minutes. That's pretty good. So thank you guys. I would stay longer, but I got to pick my kids up. Thank you to Triad Bank, triadbanking.com, St. Louis Lawn Care, St. Louis Equipment. Actually, St. Louis Lawn Care, while I was doing this, they were doing aeration and seeding of my yard. So you have St. Louis Lawn Care, mulch, bug control, weed control. They have St. Louis Equipment, stlmowerrepair.com. Buy a mower, get your mower repaired. They got Skag. They got They got the best brands, small engines. We're talking, I have a Crest battery-operated trimmer that's great. I have a Husqvarna blower that's fantastic. I got to get over to Corner Butcher in Fenton and Chop House. They're now in the same building. I'm excited over there in Fenton for all your grilling needs for college football. And so once again, thank you guys all for watching. Thank you to Triad Bank, St. Louis Lawn Care, St. Louis Equipment, Corner Butcher in Fenton, Chop House. I apologize to Triad Bank for forgetting to put your sponsorship up. I'll re-release this, all right, with the logo up there. That's my bad. But thank you all. There's like dozens of comments and questions. Oh, I got to put this up. Look at this guy. He gave me a super thanks, $5. Thank you, Sam I Am. Thanks for all the measured takes. Most people are just extreme doom and gloom, and others are just tools. You are in the middle, which is good in my opinion. Thank you so much. I mean, there's dozens of you guys that I did not get to. Here we go. Brian, Charlie, keep the birds' feet to the fire. All right, I would go longer. I'd go an hour and a half today, but I got to leave. So thank you so much. Comment, like, subscribe, support our sponsors, Triad Bank, St. Louis Lawn Care, St. Louis Equipment, Corner Butcher and Chop House in Fenton. I love you all, and let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of today's moves. Look at this. Hold on. I got to read this one. Brian, I just invested $40,000 in Triad Bank. Thank you. Even if you're joking, thank you. Maybe you're not. Maybe, hey, maybe you did. Maybe you got a loan. Maybe you opened up retail banking over there. Whatever it is. Okay, here. I'll read a couple more. Mitchell Sharp, I disagree that any of what was announced is a big move. They are changing titles. Why should we believe anything is going to change? Yeah, I get that for 2025. Big changes for 2026. We'll see if they make changes for 2026 with the manager, coaching staff. We'll see how it goes in 2025. I hear you. I wanted a little bit more. I get it if you guys did too, but I got to go. So thank you. Comment, like, subscribe. Love you all, and I will see you later.